starting.
There we go.
Welcome.
Cool.
Now we're going to talk about the drive chain release, but there's a lot more. And oh, I should have asked this when we were off air, but I understand you had a code name for the drive chain release. Patrick told me.
Oh yeah, but I can't remember what it is. What was it? Tell me what it was.
Oh, he said it was the Death Star.
Oh, yeah. Well, I go through a lot of different code names for things, I guess.
Okay, well, let's call it the Death Star for this.
That's a good one.
Show. Yeah.
Sometimes I think of them and I forget them.
Tell me about how the Death Star works.
Well, this is a project that kind of aims for universality among blockchains. So it allows the token to be independent of the software. So you could take Bitcoin, 21 million BTC Bitcoin, that I'm just going to refer to BTC as Bitcoin, not in any political or pejorative sense, just because we have to refer to one for now. Okay. But there's something cool for Bitcoin Cash fans. So just keep listening for the next 6 or 7 minutes. You have BTC, and it can travel among different pieces of software, and it's the same kind of coin. It would retain its monetary properties, that of being something that you can send to someone else or move around, and that there's only 21 million of, and that there's no double spending.
So wait a minute, you're talking about drive.
Yeah.
Wait, you're talking about drive chain, right?
Yes.
Okay. But what you've done is a lot more than just drive chain. But
that's right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No one is. People are gonna really have to catch up. You're completely right. No, we're doing this interview at the high expert level.
Okay.
I'm not gonna dumb it down for anyone. But just let me
just watch the previous
way catching up. Everyone else is way catching up on side chains.
Watch the previous videos we've done to learn what drive chain is. Yeah. So what I want to talk about now is how you put it together so that it actually works now.
Yeah, so we did a bunch of things with this. This is just a test version, but there are a couple other things besides drive chain that are being tested at the same time. So one is they're designed to neutralize various groups' political power. So one is very simple, which is just that the testnet has a different proof of work algorithm. I think everyone knows how that goes. You just, all these miners that have invested all this money in R&D and building these chips are kind of basically just cut out, and it's just you get to start over with a new group of people. And what I try to do is that for everyone, for every group. So it's also, we have obviously having the same UTXO set as Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash, which is another option we're going to have, is a way of appeasing the investors. So anyone who owns Bitcoin at a certain time would get airdropped this concept as well. So it's
don't call it an airdrop.
Yeah, I know.
It's a it's an alternate history.
Well, I know how I understand it, but I don't know the words that people use in this space are very kind of strange. That's kind of my excuse for just fumbling around with the words. But what this does is, for every objection that there has been to a hard fork in the past, it tries to sort of overcome it, and then at the last minute it hard forks to a different proof of work algorithm. So it just kind of cuts everyone out. So we got the new proof of work, we got the UTXO set being the same, and we have this one-way replay protection, or user-activated replay protection. So that will be interesting to see if anyone understands the implications of that. But I think they're pretty interesting. So maybe we should talk about that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, great. Okay, wait, no, I have one thing to say. The reason that Dan Darkpill originally blocked me on Twitter is because he asked me, what is the essential thing about Bitcoin? And I told him it was the UTXO set.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's...
Well, there you go.
that's what you've got.
Well, yeah. So this project just takes a file. It just takes a little file and just eats it up, and then that catches you up to the modern day, instead of validating the entire blockchain history, which takes several days of computer time. right now because the blockchain is whatever it is, 9 years old or so. So we just catch up with a different file. But the cool thing is we could just replace that file with a different file, namely a file with the Bitcoin Cash UTXOs. And so in that way, it's totally indifferent between. It's very easy for us to create two different versions of the project that are exactly identical, except that one is Bitcoin Core owners and the other has Bitcoin Cash owners.
And so we don't do replay protection. So tell me about
yes. So that's what I did.
that.
Is I do something kind of clever where there's no replay protection at first, but if you use this software, as soon as you actually make a transaction with this software, then you get the replay protection. So you can split the coins and have two different coins that have different market price, but only when it's individually by UTXO. So only when you want to split the coins do they split. But until then, they don't split. So the analogy I use to think about what makes replay protection valuable is that it's kind of like you're at a party and you want everyone to move from one room to a different room. And you kind of have to get everyone to move at once. And that is very difficult because maybe even if people believe you that room 2 is better than room 1, they might be in a conversation with their friends or something. There's just network effects of just staying where you are, and you don't want to be, it's like a prisoner's dilemma. You don't want to be like the guy who goes off alone into the other room and is there all by yourself, because at a party you want to be where other people are.
Yeah.
So what replay protection does is it kind of puts you in both rooms at once. And so that's a pretty cool thing. But what I would also like is I would also like for you to be able to say, okay, I've had plenty of time to think about it. And even though I like being in both rooms at once, it's time for me to sell my room 1 self. I'm willing to take the risk now and cash out. I'm going to sell room 1 self for full market value, whatever I can get on Coinbase. And now I retain my free room 2 self. So you have the option to bail, but you have to do it yourself. So I think it's kind of cool because everything is perfectly in sync up to and including the moment of any split, and also in the future. It's all your money is kept synchronized across all the chains because there's no replay protection that's mandatory or by default. By default, there is replay. But then when you decide, or should you decide, you can split the coins. And that puts you on, well, it gives you coins on each network. And I think that is much better than anything else that's been done, because you now have your option to say, well, I would like to speculate, but you don't have to worry about speculating at the wrong time as other people. You can just play it cool and be in all the rooms at once.
Okay, well, first of all, I completely agree with your analogy, and yeah, I would say that is that's obviously better. And
I know it's just a shame that people struggled for so long. Not a lot of people really agree with us, or I think they just really didn't understand what they were doing, where they were like, well, come with us to room 2. It's got 2 megabyte blocks. That's way better than 1 megabyte blocks. And yeah, don't worry about how you're going to lose all of your money if we're wrong about that. And just like, instead they were just like, oh, we'll just put a wall in between the 2 rooms. And instead, why not just be in all the rooms? So I don't know. A lot of people don't really agree with us on that, but it seems like it's the obviously correct thing to me.
Yeah, well, I think that people are struggling understanding how to build Bitcoin in an investor-centric kind of way, because being investment decisions are all about strategy. But if you're designing a coin, there's no reason that you're actually thinking about the strategy of the people buying it. And it usually seems like anything that seems like it would be a good strategy to me is opposed by people who want to build coins. So first we had all of these altcoins, yeah, and I kept saying that everybody needs to settle on the same coin. You shouldn't start a whole new coin just because you want to change a feature. And and I wish So I wish people had figured out how to make forks a lot earlier. But now you're starting to show people about how to do them. I don't know. It just seems like people get terrified.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Things that just make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me either. But the interesting thing about this project is that it is also it's a solution to the problem of forks, because instead of forking, you just make a side chain, and then there's no turmoil at all. Just people who are interested move over there and then move back. But in order to actually create the project, it may have to be a competitive fork of some kind. So it has these features. So it's very, I sympathize with people who don't understand it, because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like doing a kind of magic trick to create real magic. So it's kind of like hard for people to understand, because it's like, I don't understand, is it real magic or not? And it's like, well, after the magic trick is over, the magic will be real. And people are just like, I don't get it.
Okay,
and it's kind of just like,
you're gonna have to explain that.
Sure, the competitive fork, should it come to pass, that is the magic trick. And then actually having sidechains is the real magic. Because having sidechains solves all of our problems, because it's just, if anyone makes a mistake, someone just releases a new piece of software, and eventually users just move over there. And if they were wrong about it being a mistake, then they can move their money back. And anyone who wants to invent something new can very easily. And we don't need to worry about debating about what is or is not appropriate for the community to be having run on their computers. And we have it's like more like the App Store, where new stuff is just added and stuff competes on how awesome it is for users, and that means we get the best stuff, and errors are deleted. So we want to get to that land, but the problem is, I think a lot of people are opposed to sidechains, but for different reasons. So some people just don't understand them. Other people understand them, but think that they are a good idea, but don't want them on Bitcoin Core because they're already pro Bitcoin Cash. So it's very funny. So
okay, wait. So sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
Recently, Vin Armani told me that he was having trouble understanding drive chains because you had written so much material responding to objections that he had trouble finding something that just explained it. So he was waiting. So let's ignore the people who don't like drive chains now, because you can do that because you have the Death Star.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the idea, is that well, this is kind of what you're saying with the hard forks, which is that you don't really want to kind of persuade people that you're right. You really want to keep all of the good information for yourself, so that you can exploit what you know to make money off of other people. And so that's a little bit more about what the magic trick might be about. There might be like, why bother explaining it? It should be, people should be desperate to try and learn about it for their own purposes. So that would be a kind of way you would want to switch it around. But I think I empathize with, it's true that I have written a lot of stuff responding to the objections, and I think almost that it was a mistake because it just produces a lot of stuff. But I have some good news, which is that I just did a Let's Talk Bitcoin interview, and I think Adam B. Levine kept it on track. And so for the masses, there will be something that will help them understand what drive chain is. So that will hopefully come out this weekend. And then I'll probably be heavily promoting that interview if people find it helpful. So I'll probably put that on like the front page of drive chain.
Okay.
But I don't know do we want to explain it? We could try to explain it here.
Well, we've already done
up on that. I know. I think we have.
How would if I explain it and then you can tell me if I did a good job?
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, let's see.
Okay, so so there is an address that represents sending to the side chain, and the side chain it could be a completely separate program with totally different miners and everything, and it is programmed to recognize sending to this address as that it can create new funds, but
so good.
but the people on the main chain don't have to know anything about that. As far as they know, this is just some address. And then the people who move their funds into this address, then they get units on this side chain. And the side chain has anything. It has any rules that you want, because it's just whatever other program somebody wants to make. So it can be as stupid as you want. It can be complete nonsense, or it could be the future of Bitcoin. And then the way we get money out of the side chain is, first, a transaction is created that moves funds out. So some people do something on the side chain to say that they want to move funds out. And then there's a regular period where we can move funds out. So first, you create the transaction and you put it in the Coinbase, and that registers it so that people know it exists. And then there is an upvote and downvoting process that goes on with the miners. And if it gets enough upvotes, then it is recognized as a valid transaction.
Yeah, that's basically it. Of course, that it leads immediately to two, like one big stumbling block for people, and then a second big stumbling block for people. So the first stumbling block is, okay, the miners can upvote this or downvote this. Why don't they just steal all the money and send it to themselves? And sort of the answer to that is that this process takes place over a very, very long time, like 3 to 6 months. And so there's plenty of opportunity to see if it is conforming exactly to the sidechain, which the sidechain will know immediately, because it will know immediately if something is going wrong. And there'll be plenty of time for them to either warn everyone or to try to take some kind of response. Or even if no one cares, it will be clear that there's no accident going on here, and the miners are just decided to be evil and bring an end to the sidechain experiment, not only for that sidechain, but for all sidechains. And this idea is that it's just very slow and undeniable. So there's a long opportunity for people to respond, which they can do very easily by just doing like a little UASF that says that this transaction is not allowed in the block, and that there's a very light touch, and it really doesn't affect any of the main chain miners, even though it may to some tiny sliver of an extent. But the other thing is that even if the money is from the sidechain is successfully stolen, it would just mean that the miners are no longer going to get any transaction fees from that sidechain, or really from any sidechains ever now or in the future, and that also the token is no longer multi-network, and so it would be less valuable. So you would think this would not be in miners' interests. But then the fact that it takes 3 to 6 months leads people to a second stumbling block, which is that won't that just be too, okay, 3 to 6 months is a really long time. Definitely it's going to be very, very, very difficult for anyone to get money out of the sidechain at all, including miners who might be stealing it. So they get that part, and they think, why won't that be too long? And but the answer to that is that there will be people, kind of arbitrageur, investment banker, Goldman Sachs style people, who will just buy up the little coupons. They've got plenty of main chain Bitcoin, so they'll give them to you in exchange for getting a tiny interest rate. They'll buy them up for 99 cents on the dollar, and they'll walk them back over a couple months. And so there'll be really no inconvenience. You'll be able to get them instantly and risk-free. The only people bearing the risk will be these specialists who walk the money back through this very slow gate. It's like very slow. It's like a narrow trench that takes you like 3 months to walk down. You can flood it with lava at any moment or something. And you can slowly walk down this thing. So only the specialists are going to be doing that, but hopefully at a market price that is very, very, very close, 99 cents on the dollar or something like that. So those are the two stumbling blocks that people will encounter after having the idea explained to them. But yeah, I think that's basically it. So we'll see if anyone can make heads or tails out of any of that, or if the misunderstandings will continue.
Okay, well, so I mean, to me, all you really need to say is that the miners have an incentive to make Bitcoin more valuable. Yeah. And it's really, like, really the miners could steal any coins.
Of course, right. Exactly. Yeah. That's something that I try to explain to people. I mean, you were talking like a 3-month long sustained period where more than half of the hash rate is misbehaving in some way, and it's like, wow, in a few months, something like, I don't remember, but I think like almost all, like the total amount of turnover is like millions of Bitcoins. So it's like, that's an awful lot of coins you could reorg out and steal, or you could definitely steal. It'd be much easier to steal from a Lightning channel that has a whatever lockup period of a custodial period of 2 weeks or something. So people kind of have two sets of books. They have they have kind of a double standard. They're for main chain security and side chain security. They're more paranoid about side chain security.
Yeah. Well, what I was just saying is like you could mine a transaction that violates the rules of Bitcoin, and if it had enough proof of work on it, people would have to go along with it, right?
Only the light clients.
The miners have to follow the rules because they want to make Bitcoin more valuable, but they could just mine nonsense that says they get all of the coins, and if they did that, then nobody would use Bitcoin anymore.
It's really about the interrelationship between the two groups. Is really about how easy it is for each group to check that the other group is not screwing them. And so in that way, drive chain is exactly the same as Bitcoin, because it tries to make it really, it says you don't have to run the sidechain full node. You just have to check. You just have to kind of do something, even if you want a perfect security, which, well, it's kind of interesting. I'm going to confuse people here, but there's many different ways. You could just say, well, let's let the sidechains all die if they want, free market for sidechains, Darwinian evolution. Or you could say, well, let's try to make the sidechains as safe as possible. So if you were going the safest possible attitude, you would then want to say, well, it's really easy to ignore the sidechain because we have 3 to 6 months to find that full node and turn it on and check about what happened. Check upon what happened for the last 3 months. We got a long time to audit the sidechain if we wanted to. But you don't even know. You could audit it in SPV mode. You could do all these other things. In the drive chain design, the sidechain's SPV mode commits to the withdrawal. So that's something where, again, you don't know if the SPV mode is following all the rules, because the only way you can do that is to run a sidechain full node. But you have very, very, very strong guarantees. And then it's like, oh, it's been committing to this transaction in SPV mode for the last several months. And you just check if one hash matches another hash. But yeah, I don't know. I think my ability to explain it to people is basically non-existent at this point, because it's been so long. It's been almost 3 years since I wrote the original post. I haven't been working on it for that long, and I work on other things, of course, not just this. But the November 2015 was the first post. So now it's kind of like I not only knew how it works, but I invented it from scratch and then wrote it down. You know how much effort it takes to like produce a piece of explanation. So now my ability to relate to people who don't already understand it is, I think, is minimal.
Okay, well, I'm glad I explained it then.
Yeah, you did explain it. I thought you explained it pretty well.
Okay, well, thanks. So, who are these people that you mentioned earlier who don't want it, who don't want drive chain activated on BTC because they prefer BCH?
Yeah, well, many miners take that view, and I don't know if I'm at liberty. I don't want to.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, you don't. No, that's fine.
A lot of people in the BCH community who they actually think that drive chain is a good idea, and they don't want it. Bitcoin Core for that reason. But ironically, there are many people in Bitcoin Core who I think because they misunderstand the idea or just don't understand it at all, or basically put no effort into understanding the idea, or in 3 cases because they tried to do something similar themselves and failed over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. But there are people in Bitcoin Core who think it's not a good idea and they don't want it in Core for that reason. So it's going to be kind of very funny to see how it all shakes out.
Well, if the BCH, if you are a BCH fan, talking to the audience here, probably what you should do is lobby to have it activated on BTC, because that will make them less likely to do it.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. Because let's be clear: if you are a BCH supporter, you don't want it activated on BTC, but you want to make them think that you do, or something like that.
Right.
So you want to campaign for it to be, because then they'll never will. They'll say, this is an attack on Bitcoin. That which is ironic because the true attack would be the subterfuge.
Well, to me, the true attack would be not would be opposing random experimentation.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I think the funny thing is there's an issue with it's a deeper problem, which is that since Bitcoin is in the lead, I think Bitcoin Cash has like some fatal disadvantages, but I guess they're not fatal because you could come back from them, I think. But the one big one is that if Bitcoin Cash does anything clever that works out, I think Bitcoin Core would just copy it, or some, not the people who are currently in leadership positions in Bitcoin Core, but someone out there would just say, okay, Bitcoin Cash did this thing, it worked, larger blocks are working, so here's my hard fork, here's my, like, whatever it is, here's my March 2019 hard fork of Bitcoin Core that increases the block size or something. And so anything that anyone else does that's a success, Bitcoin BTC can just copy. And I think that is a huge disadvantage. So what you really want is you really want to lobby like Jihan Wu or something. If you're a BCH guy, you want Jihan Wu to commit to never activating drive chain on BTC. Because you want it to be permanently, you want it to be like permanently banned from BTC. Because you never know. The psyops would probably work, but would it work permanently? And then what about these new people who might hard fork BTC? Like a sane, rational person might just say, okay, this is working on BCH, let's hard fork it into BTC. So you really need is the SHA-256 miners to lock it down so that if someone does have to hard fork, they also have to change the difficulty algorithm, and that weakens their position even further.
Okay, so what I think is better is if people just followed my advice to stay diversified in the Bitcoin index, because then you benefit from either possibility. So if,
you do,
if BCH BCH succeeds a lot and people copy it on BTC, then you're all set.
No, that's good advice. I think you're right. Why play all these games? It just it's a lot of risk. But yeah, if you were going to speculate hard, I mean, think about this: the price of Bitcoin Cash is just cheaper than Bitcoin Core. So you would say, well, I can get more Bitcoin Cash, and if I can guarantee that BTC will never activate drive chain, and but BCH will, then it will probably, because it's this universality project. So I should explain that the version we have, again, we just load the UTXOs in a file. So when I say loading the BCH UTXOs, what I mean is that it's still all the core software code. So all of basically it forces Greg Maxwell, Luke Jr., et cetera, it forces all of them to become BCH developers, because it's just using the Bitcoin Core code, but with the BCH ownership set. And then from there, you can easily staple on, a large block sidechain or a gigantic block sidechain or something like that, or this other things and these other experimental projects on top of that give the BCH community what they really wanted, which was larger blocks. But I think that, almost all the criticisms of BCH are like dev shaming or something, right? That the devs aren't like as good. But it's like this just completely erases that, because it's the exact same software code.
Well, yeah, I think that if you are a developer, anything you write can be copied. So
I know, right? So there's no game theoretic currency to any open source piece of technology. So that, so right. I don't know why people don't appreciate that either. They think that
so I think that developers in general just should not favor any coin over another. they don't have a good way of preventing code from being copied either. So I would say that it's in the interest of all developers to cooperate for all the coins. But
yeah, I know
whatever.
you would think that. I think in practice, just because what people do, I don't even know if it's conscious or it may be mostly subconscious, but whatever it is, you know, when developers move in on a new project, they're always going to like refactor everything their own way, or they kind of, and that makes it very hard for other people to read. And so basically Bitcoin Cash has changed the software code. I had someone that I trust looked into it, and they think something like 50% by crucial lines of code, just about as many have been changed as not, and that would make it super difficult to actually program a BCH version of Drive Chain. So instead, just going to keep the same version that we already have, but just load the BCH ownership set, and then give the large block sidechain, which would have the same practical effect.
Yeah, and if it starts turning out that the drive chains are valuable, then somebody else can figure out how to copy them onto BCH.
That is true. Yeah, that would be nice. Although I do think that it is, you know, this is a maxim of open source that you want to have many eyes on the project. And so it's too bad that now we have different projects. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is a bad week to bring that up. What with the bug that was found in Core, but not in some others. So I don't know. Maybe I kind of think it's better to have everyone in the same basket, but I don't know about that. Maybe, who knows? Maybe doubt will be cast on that idea.
Well, I think that eventually people will have to figure some of this stuff out. Like, yeah, to me, it's well, everything in Bitcoin is completely crazy. So whatever.
I know. Right, exactly.
So let's see. You also told me you wanted to talk about what you would do if you were Jihan Wu. So
right. Well, he has tons of Bitcoin Cash. So I would do this plan where I would say, okay, we're not activating it on BTC ever, and we will destroy it if it is. And then I would activate it on Bitcoin Cash. I would take my gift when I make the thing, the core code and the BCH ownership set, the UTXO set. I would endorse that if I were him. That's kind of a big ask, but it's I saw what was it? I think it was a drop lister. Someone used the phrase an unrelated counterparty matter, but he used the phrase technical debt jubilee, that I thought was the funniest phrase.
Oh, that is really funny.
I know, isn't that funny? So it's like you equalize the code, the software code between core and cache, so that there's no longer any basis for comparison. And you just say, I don't know to what extent you want to call that technical debt, but I think the phrase would still apply, because anyone who's trying to understand Bitcoin now would want to learn BTC code base, and then they may learn BCH code base second, and then they might be like, there's all these changes, I don't understand them. So you would, and then there's all these criticisms about how the BCH, you know, supposedly has worse devs, worse code, etc. Again, I don't know the last 10 days withstanding, but that's a criticism that people make. And so it would just be nice to just have it completely equalized across both. It's kind of the developer version of your investor advice, which is just say, just keep the software code the same and do all the weird stuff you want on the sidechain layer.
Well, once again, it's that there is a lack of an investor-centric view in
a strategy-centric view that just says like, well,
right.
You say there's like a view, if you go if there's like a sailing competition between two people, if you take the lead, you want to just turn around and look at what the other person is doing and copy them, because as long as you're closer to the finish line than them on the water, it doesn't matter what the wind can do a bunch of different crazy things that might make you lose. But if you just copy them completely, you really can't. You can because of currents and things, but you really can't lose, because whatever the wind does, it's going to do for both of you. So even if you're both going backwards, just keep copying what they do. Eventually, you'll win. as long as there's only 2 people racing. So you want to just say, well, let's take the sure thing. Don't like take a risk and do what you think is a good idea. Forget about what you think is a good idea. Just take the sure thing, which is just making sure that you can't be beaten by any other ideas.
Well, so the test version,
yeah, we kind of rushed it out, so there's still it's not perfect and there's still bugs and things. So, but I did want to release it because I think the misunderstandings are just so profound, and a lot of people are actually, tons of people love the idea and they're very excited about it. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to get enthusiastic, and also people to test and run the software, which actually a lot of people are doing now. So it's been going really well. We got maybe like 5 or 6 people who are just like been using it for the last 48 hours and being active in the Telegram channel and talking about, you know, what they find and what finding bugs and things. So that's great, reproducing bugs. So that's really great. I'm really glad that we shoved it out the door.
What kind of side chains do you have running to begin with?
Right, we just have one, but we're going to add. We have just one, you know, for simplicity. You never know, like you deposit 2 side chains at once, or some like all the bugs and things that you might find starting small.
Yeah,
but we have one that's just sidechain 1, and that's its name, and it doesn't do anything interesting at all. It's just a hard fork of Bitcoin 16. That is a sidechain, so it does really nothing interesting at all. But it does teach people, I think, about what code changes they have to make if they want to have a sidechain. So we kind of call it the sidechain template, so to speak. So that's a good one to start with, of course. But yeah, we plan on adding a really great second one would be to just make one a sidechain with a larger block size to kind of accommodate people who want larger blocks. And then I think a easy third one would be just make one with an outrageously huge block size, because some people are into that, and just why not like show off a little bit the capabilities. These are very easy to make. It's basically all the software code that was there before, just with a parameter changed. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically what it is. So we plan on having 2 more in there really soon. And those will be ones that are very easy to make, very unlikely to contain any novel bugs, and also that things that people actually like. And some people are interested in having the large block option. And then I really want to throw my prediction market project in there as soon as we possibly can, because we did kind of have it mostly finished as of 2015. And so it would be nice to finally turn that on in a very alpha kind of whatever sense. Like definitely going to need a lot of debugging for that, because it's by far the most complicated, I think, piece of blockchain machinery out there that is not just kind of, I don't know, maybe there are a couple projects notwithstanding. I don't really want to name their names because they're kind of, I think they're pointlessly complex, and mine is I think complex in kind of important way. So I don't want to like get into a thing, but yeah, there's a lot going on in the prediction markets project. And I think also that's another thing where people really like that idea. So you get actual users for this software, which would again just help the development process, help the debugging process.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited about the prediction market project too, obviously. And once you have that, then you have a then really Bitcoin becomes freed, because then there's a way for everybody to kind of coordinate with one another to decide anything.
Yeah, I think it's too late. The drive chain is already an improvement. Sidechains are an improvement on prediction markets, because they just say, instead of deciding what's best, you can just do everything at once. So it doesn't even matter. But yeah, but I wish we had prediction market governance, but sidechains are even superior to that, because they say we don't even need governance, because we're not all in the same boat anymore. Some of us can go off on one sidechain, others can go off in in a different side chain. But yeah, the prediction markets thing, I've got a lot of big plans to help get that used in the real world to help us with our big problems, namely that our voters are clueless and our government has basically been captured by kleptocrats. So we got to work on that at some point. And I don't think Bitcoin enough will be. I don't think Bitcoin enough will be. I don't think if you only had Bitcoin, you only made it slightly more difficult to collect some taxes. I don't think that would be enough to fix that problem.
Okay, well, let's not end things on a downer.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, there's a lot of uppers going. Because the stuff is being released and it's out there now, and so you can go to drivechain.info, and then you'd want to click archive and find the announcement. I guess I'll put it on the front page actually right after this. So I've been meaning to do that. So I go to drivechain.info and you'll see links to the release, and then you'll be able to understand better what it is, because you'll be able to just download it and use it. I think some people don't understand something. It was hard for me to understand Bitcoin until I actually installed it and got coins from Gavin's faucet. And then I could understand it a little better. So I think, I don't know, those of you out there who have no idea what DriveChain is, you'll get to see what it is. It lets you send your Bitcoin to other software and back.
Okay, well, so do you have any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts? Like, I don't know. It's going to be very funny to see like exactly who figures out what the earliest. So like, will Bitcoin Cash figure out what to do? Or will Bitcoin Core figure out what to do? I think they're both like,
definitely, that's definitely a Tom Bombadil kind of attitude there.
It's kind of like, I feel like the people in Bitcoin Core are much smarter, but also crazier. And I think the Bitcoin Cash people are more like Nassim Taleb's like Greek versus Roman thing. They're more Roman. They're more like hands-on, like very practical. They want to like get customers for things. They want to get like feedback from the market, and I think, but I think they're also there's a disadvantage with that, which is that, you know, you're all Roman and you get none of that beautiful Athenian theory and kind of like, I don't know, design elements. So I don't know like what will happen, or if a third party will emerge. I don't know. It's going to be very funny, but I look forward to refining this software and testing it more. And yeah, a lot of different things could happen. So I guess we'll just have to keep making more videos. That's the only thing we can do.
Well, the Romans did a better job taking over the world. So that's the main thing to me.
It's a good analogy and a good point. They did do a good job.
But let's so granting your analogy, not that I do, but let's just say that you're right. So my advice to BCH people is go from Romans to Mongols, because they did a better job of taking over the world.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, both groups led it into, Athens had this beautiful progress, scientific, moral, philosophical progress, and then Rome kind of had like a weird progress for like, we kind of went sideways up for 1,000 years. So be Roman, take over the world, and then go back to doing science.
Oh my God! Whatever. Science. Where's the science? I mean, where's the controlled experiment? The market is the only objective feedback that everybody can.
Oh yeah, no, do Hayekian.
That's the science.
Hayekian science is A+. Karl Popper's book Conjectures and Refutations is dedicated to F.A. Hayek. So
yeah.
So there's complete overlap there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, well, I guess I'm just looking for. Well, anyway, sorry, I just retweeted something from Andreas. I think I don't remember his name now.
Andreas Brecken or Andreas
Yeah,
Antonopoulos?
yes. And he said that everybody is going to hate drive chain for various reasons. So that is, if you're a good contrarian, that's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think there's something about a good idea that it's not loyal to any particular person. It's just the best idea for everyone, and in that way, it won't like go to bat for you, right? It won't like help you out.
Yeah.
Personally, it's just better. It's just a better idea. It doesn't like the free market like doesn't help anyone in particular.
Yeah. So, okay. So speaking of that, that's why I depicted you as Thanos in my last video on prediction markets.
That's a sticker now.
Because that's
Andreas Brecken's friend made a sticker pack about me. I have a sticker pack on Telegram now.
Yeah, go get his sticker pack. But
really funny.
But yeah, I think that I think the best ideas can take over no matter how much people don't like them. They're
how much
more
opposition.
powerful than
even if you have the entire
Marvel superhero league,
extended universe, it won't be enough.
Yeah. Okay, well, great to talk to you, and I'm excited to see
until the next movie. Until the next movie, and we find out what the plan was.
Whatever.
The green guy who could see the future.
Anything can happen in my head canon. So I'll see you around, and good to talk to you again.
Yes, likewise.
Okay, bye everybody in TV land.
Everyone watch this.